revealed how 30 days in a foreign psychiatric hospital transformed my life in an incredible way. Jake Reynolds was a mechanic, a small-town guy who knew how to fix cars and had once been the pride of his family. But then life got heavy. The darkness wrapped around him like a thick fog, freezing his heart, blurring his mind, and pushing him away from those who loved him most. His parents, with worry etched on their faces, finally laid down an ultimatum: seek help at a psychiatric hospital overseas that promised genuine transformation, far away from the rumors and judgment of their tight-knit community. Stepping off the plane in a foreign land, the taste of anxiety filled Jake's mouth. Strange words buzzed around him. People moved in ways he didn't understand. The first week felt like drowning. He missed the comforting sound of his hometown, his dad's laugh, his mom's gentle voice. Each day was a battle. Isolation wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. Tears filled his eyes more times than he could count. But amidst that emptiness, he met others who fought their own battles. A stoic veteran with hollow eyes carried stories that would shake you to your core. A spirited young woman, defying the expectations placed on her, laughed as if her joy could light the darkest corners of the room. And then there was the single mother, pushing through the struggle to provide for her kids. Her fierce love gave her a warrior's strength. Every story they shared chipped away at the wall Jake built around himself, opening him to something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. As they shared laughs and sorrows over bland meals, he started to see the deeper issues that gnawed at him and so many others. The American dream wasn't as perfect as it seemed. It was a veil hiding struggles that haunted individuals in silence. These connections pried open his heart, urging him to embrace his own struggles and losses. The shame of feeling broken began to fade, replaced by a growing resilience. Halfway through the program, everything shifted. Jake faced the truth about the stigma he'd carried like a badge of honor. He began to unravel those layers of shame. He wanted to go home, not just as the son with the weight of despair, but as the man ready to reclaim his life. But just as the light began to break through, tensions rose. The thought of returning home loomed like a storm cloud. What if they couldn't see the changes he had made? The idea of their judgment left him trembling inside. In a moment of raw honesty, he confronted those fears, shouting an expression of his journey, the determination to not let their expectations define him anymore. Standing outside his family's home, his heart thundered in his chest. The comforting yet intimidating familiarity felt colossal. Would they understand? Would they still see the lost soul they once knew? Or would they catch a glimpse of the man forged in struggle? With uncertainty wrapped tightly around him, he took a deep breath, ready to open the door and step into a moment he'd long awaited. As the door creaked open and the gazes of loved ones met his own, the air thick with concern and hope, Jake stood on the precipice of potential reconciliation. Would love and forgiveness bloom where doubts once stood? A spark ignited in his soul, propelling him forward into the unknown, leaving readers eager to discover the powerful reunion waiting behind the door. The room was filled with silence, punctuated only by the fluttering of nerves. Jake felt the weight of his family's eyes, his mother's, wide and shimmering with unshed tears, his father's, a mix of cautious hope and overwhelmed concern. The warmth and familiarity of home felt like an anchor and a shackle all at once. Each breath was a reminder that everything was about to change. "Jake?" His mother's voice broke through, soft yet powerful, almost as if she was afraid breaking the silence would shatter him. Her hands trembled slightly as she stepped forward, reaching out as though to bridge the vast chasm between them. "Mom," his voice cracked, thick with emotion. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, staring at the depths below and wondering if he would soar or fall. "Is it really you?" she asked, eyes searching his face as if seeking the son she had once known buried beneath layers of hurt. "We've missed you so much. We've worried about you." Jake swallowed hard, the memories of their worries chained to his heart. "I've missed you too, more than you could know." It was true. Through all the struggles, their faces kept popping up in his mind, driving him toward recovery. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for them, for the love that had always been there, even when he felt lost. His dad stepped forward, rigid with unspoken words. "We thought you wouldn't come back." It was a simple statement, but it pierced through the air, heavy with unguarded truth. The possibility that he might have stayed away forever haunted them all. "I almost didn't," Jake admitted, voice dropping to a whisper. Fear had been his constant companion, casting shadows even where light could break through. But he was here now, fighting through the storm. But I wanted to try, to be better, for myself and for you. His mother stepped closer, wrapping her arms around him in a crushing embrace. Warmth and love cascaded over him. Tears slipped down her cheeks, and Jake felt his own efforts flooded by her strength. "I want to hear everything," she murmured, pulling away enough to look him in the eyes. "I want to understand." Taking a deep breath, Jake faced the overwhelming swell of emotions. He ached to share the confusion, the pain, but also the transformation he had endured. It wasn't easy. The memories were sharp and jagged, but they had shifted into pieces he could hold without crumbling. "I met people who showed me I wasn't alone," he began.
Each word brought a mixture of heaviness and relief. He shared the stories of the veteran, the young woman, and the fierce mother. He wanted them to see he wasn't coming home simply as the boy they remembered. He was ready to explore the man he could be. As he spoke, he caught glimpses of their reactions, eyes widening, expressions softening, tension fading. The walls of doubt that had built up over his absence weren't just his to dismantle. They belonged to all of them. But just as he began to feel a sense of relief wash over him, the unsettling thought flickered back. What if the understanding he craved slipped through their fingers? "Jake," his father interrupted gently, "we are proud of you, but our life hasn't stood still. Some things have changed." He hesitated, the silence in the room growing heavier again. What did he mean? What did he have to brace for? Jake felt his heart drop. Was he ready for whatever lay beyond the door he had just stepped through? Changed how? He asked, a thread of dread weaving through his thoughts. The answer hung in the air, waiting, just like he had. Now, the real journey was about to begin. Changed how? Jake echoed again, urgency biting at his words. The intensity in the room sharpened, pressing in on him like a vice. He felt the heat of his father's gaze, steady but unreadable, and it made him anxious. His father took a breath, the kind that seemed to pull him deeper into some kind of resolution. "It's about your sister, Jake. She's been struggling a lot since you left." The pit in Jake's stomach dropped further. He always knew his family was weathering storms, but hearing this threw him into a new turmoil. "What do you mean? Is she okay?" His mother's eyes glimmered with a new wave of tears, her expression shifting from relief to worry. "She's been going through some tough times. It's been hard for her to cope with everything, with you being gone." Jake's heart thudded painfully in his chest. He had always wanted to be the strong one, the protector. But here he was, finally back, and the feeling of being needed had morphed into a heavy burden. "What can I do? How can I help her?" His shrug shrugged, a gesture filled with both helplessness and hope. "She's in therapy, but I think she needs her brother. She loves you, Jake. We all do. But we can't go back. We can only move forward." The journey forward felt daunting, shrouded in uncertainty, yet Jake felt a flicker of determination ignite within him. "Then that's what I'll do." He met his father's gaze, willing strength into his voice. "I'm ready to help. I want to be there for her. I've learned a lot about fighting through difficult times. I can share that with her." His mother nodded, gratitude mixing with sorrow. "She's too proud to ask for help, but I know she needs it. You two always shared a special bond." Jake thought back to those moments of laughter and closeness. They were the small fragments of joy that filled his childhood. Did they still exist? Would she recognize the brother who had once comforted her, the brother who had faltered? "Where is she?" Jake asked, his heart racing with a mix of anxiety and resolve. "She's been staying with a friend," his mother replied tentatively. "It's been hard for her to come home. I think it would help if you reached out to her." "Then I will. I'll go see her," he said, the decision settling in his mind. The weight of the world still felt heavy, but right now, it wasn't just about him. It was about family. His dad stepped forward, a hand on Jake's shoulder. You might find that she's changed too. We all have, but the love is still there, all of it. Then that's enough to start, Jake affirmed, his voice stronger now. As he glanced between his parents, the warmth of hope began to fill the room again. But even as that hope pulsed through him, he couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that encountering his sister would be a revelation of its own. What if their conversations were harder than he imagined? What if they couldn't bridge the gap that had grown in his absence? Jake stepped toward the door, the threshold now feeling both welcoming and daunting. He had crossed one difficult bridge by returning home. Now he needed to cross another. A sudden thought struck him before he turned the doorknob. What if she doesn't want to see me? His parents exchanged glances. You need to give it a chance, his father said softly. The first step is reaching out. Taking a deep, steadying breath, Jake pushed the door open, feeling the air shift around him. As he stepped into the world that had moved on without him, he felt the prick of uncertainty again. But with it came a new determination. The real journey was only just beginning. What would he find when he reached out to her? Would they find the way back to each other? The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow that clashed with the cool breeze around him. Jake moved down the street, each step taking him deeper into unfamiliar territory, the echo of his parents' concerns bouncing around in his mind. The neighborhood they had lived in was the same, yet everything felt different, heavier. The laughter of kids playing somewhere nearby was a stark reminder of how much life had changed in his absence. He found himself standing in front of Mia's friend's house, its familiar exterior now shrouded in uncertainty. It was just a plain old suburban home, but Jake felt like he was staring at a fortress. The thought of what awaited him inside pulled at my gut. Would she be happy to see him? Or would she turn away, bitter at the brother who had vanished when she needed him the most? Jake hesitated before ringing the doorbell. The chime echoed through the air, filling the silence with an unsettling energy. He knew the waiting would be harder than the moment itself. Footsteps approached, and his heart raced, pounding like a drum in his chest. Finally, the door creaked open.
A girl, not much older than Mia, with anxious eyes and wild hair, peered up at him, surprise painting her face. "Jake?" she asked. "Hey, Sarah, is Mia here?" His voice wobbled slightly, a mixture of hope and fear escaping his lips. Yeah, 1 second." With that, she stepped aside, gesturing for him to come in. As he walked through the threshold, memories flooded back. The scent of baked cookies wafted through the air, and the faint sound of music drifted from another room. He was drawn into a nostalgia that felt comforting yet alien. But before he could drown in it, Sarah led him down a narrow hallway towards a closed bedroom door. "Just a minute," she said softly, her eyes cast down. She knocked gently before opening the door just a crack. "Mia, someone's here to see you." Jake held his breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He could barely hear the muffled reply. "Who is it?" "It's Jake," came the strained response from Sarah. The word cut like glass, and Jake braced himself for whatever might come next. "Tell him to go away," Mia said flatly, a hint of anger laced within her tone. But Sarah opened the door wider. "I think you should see him. I mean, he's back. Isn't he your brother?" Before Mia could respond, Jake stepped forward. "Mia," he called, his voice steadier than he felt. "I'm here. I want to talk." There was a pause, and in that silence, Jake's heart sank, the tension coiling tighter, as if waiting for either a release or an explosion. Would she retreat further into her pain, or would she take a step forward into the light? When she finally appeared, it wasn't the sister he remembered. Mia stood framed in the doorway, her eyes shadowed and the lines of worry etched deep across her face. In that moment, she looked fragile and fierce all at once. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I came to see you." Jake's voice broke slightly, nudged by uncertainty. This was it. He could either let the wall between them grow tall and strong, or he could try to break it down. She eyed him, searching for something in his expression,
a thread of connection, or perhaps a glimpse of the brother who had left. The seconds ticked by, stretching into a thick silence that felt unyielding. And that's when Jake realized perhaps it wasn't about words. Maybe it was about stepping into that silence, facing it together. Then, even louder than his heartbeat, he thought, what if this was the beginning of something new? Can we talk? He asked, an invitation lingering in the air, filled with unspoken hope. Just then, he saw something shift in her eyes. Could it be the glimmer of possibility? As Mia's gaze narrowed, he held his breath, waiting for her answer. Would they step towards each other on this fragile shared ground, or would she retreat even further? Mia's eyes flickered with confusion, uncertainty clouding her gaze.
The tension in the air felt like a thick fog, suffocating yet crackling with energy. Jake braced himself, his heart hammering against his ribs, willing her to understand. He wanted, needed to reach her, to strip away the walls that had built up around their relationship. "Mia," he said, his voice trembling but earnest, "I know I messed up. I wasn't there when you needed me. But I want to make things right, if you'll let me." She shifted, crossing her arms tightly over her chest, a defensive move that echoed her emotional distance. "You can't just waltz back in here like nothing happened," she replied sharply. "You vanished when things got hard." "I know," he replied, pain slicing through his gut. "And I'm sorry. But that's why I'm here now. I want to hear about everything, about you and Dad and how you've been holding it all together." Mia's posture softened a fraction, but her brows remained knitted in disbelief. "You think you can just pick up where we left off? This isn't a game, Jake. You don't know what it's been like." "Then tell me," the words slipped out in an urgent rush. "I want to listen. I want to understand." Her lips pressed into a tight line, betraying an inner battle. Then, for a split second, Jake swore he saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes, a hint of resentment mixed with a deep-seated longing for connection. He seized it, pushing past his own fear. "Please, Mia, just give me a chance to show you that I care." The plea hung in the air like a fragile thread. It was a raw truth that resonated within him, one he had thought over during sleepless nights far from home. As if she was weighing his sincerity, Mia lowered her gaze. "I know," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper now. "But I'm here, and I want to listen." Minutes felt like hours as Mia wrestled with her emotions. Her walls were high, fortified through years of silent suffering, but Jake could see the cracks beginning to form. The weight of everything, grief, hurt, and anger, hung heavily between them, waiting to either tear them apart or bind them together. Finally, her resolve wavered. "Why now? Why not before?" A question tinged with pain edged into her voice. The cracks widened just enough for Jake to see her hurt. "I was lost," he confessed, swallowing hard. "I couldn't face what was happening at home. Running felt easier, but I'm here now. I want to change that." Mia's emotions boiled behind her determined eyes. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Jake." "Maybe not now, but I'm willing to try," he replied, desperation lacing his words. "We can start fresh together. Whatever you need, I'll do it. Just tell me how." There was a weighty silence as Mia considered him, her defenses slowly unraveling. Jake could feel hope stirring in his chest, tentative but waiting to bloom. The laughter of the kids outside faded into the background, making way for their moment, their shared past, the broken threads of their family that needed mending. "What if," Mia said hesitantly, "what if we start by talking about Mom?" Jake nodded, the grief in the air palpable. "Yes, let's talk about her." As the door swung open wider, they stepped into this shared memory, a journey neither could navigate alone, but perhaps together. But as they sunk deeper into recollection of loss, Jake felt a chill. Was it a shift within Mia, or something else entirely?
a sense unspoken but palpable, wrapping around his heart. "Jake, I need you to know something else," she prompted, the weight of her words hanging heavily. His breath caught. What revelation lurked just beyond her next sentence? Would it change everything once again? Mia took a deep breath, her eyes searching Jake's, as if she were looking for something he couldn't quite grasp. The moment hung between them, heavy with possibilities. There was fear there, but also a flicker of hope, like a tiny flame fighting against the dark. "What I need you to know," she said slowly, "is that it's not just about Mom. It's about everything that came after." Her voice broke slightly, revealing the rawness beneath her stoic facade. "After she, left us, everything changed. Dad wasn't the same, and I had to be strong for him. I had to hold our family together." Jake flinched at her choice of words, echoing the ghost of loss that lived between them. "I'm so sorry, Mia," he whispered, feeling the weight of her burden press against his heart. "I wish I could have been there to help." "Did you even care?" she shot back, the anger creeping back into her tone, mixed with hurt. "Did it ever even cross your mind?" "Of course it did. Every day," he replied, voice steady but his chest tightening. "But I felt powerless. I couldn't face you or your pain, and so I ran." "Running doesn't fix anything," she said bitterly. "You think just because you're back now, you can pretend that my whole world didn't crumble without you?" "I never wanted to pretend, Mia." He stepped closer, desperate for her to see the truth. "I just didn't know how to help. I was scared. I was scared of seeing you hurt and not knowing what to say or do, so I shut down. I thought leaving would protect you. I was wrong." The air was charged, each confession unearthing something deeper. She let out a shaky breath, and the anger started to fade. In its place lingered something Jake recognized: vulnerability. "I had to figure things out on my own," she finally said, her voice quiet but steady. "And that meant growing up faster than I wanted. I took care of Dad, of the bills, everything. I had to be the adult because I didn't have you. I didn't have anyone." Tears filled her eyes, and it tore through Jake like shards of glass. "I can't imagine how hard that was for you," he murmured, his heart aching at the picture she painted.
"You shouldn't have had to carry that weight alone." Mia looked up then, and Jake felt a shift. It was as if the sky had opened just the slightest crack, allowing light to filter through the great clouds of their past. I don't know if I can trust you again," she whispered. "I understand," he replied, a lump forming in his throat. "But I will show you, one day at a time. You don't have to do this alone anymore." As they stood in that tense moment, Jake braced himself for her response, for another wall to rise, or perhaps a step toward healing. They were treading into deep and uncertain waters, and he could feel the pull of the tide. "Jake, you don't know what you're asking for," she began, but he could see the conflict brewing inside her, a flicker of hope battling against doubt. "I'm asking to be part of your life again," he insisted, "to be a better brother, whatever that means. I know it won't be easy." Before Mia could reply, a loud crash sounded from outside. The kids at play had taken their games a little too far. A sense of normalcy interrupted their heavy exchange, but the shift it brought felt momentarily jarring. "What was that?" Mia's brows furrowed in confusion. She turned toward the window, her moment of vulnerability escaping her grasp. I think we should check on them," Jake said, torn between standing firm in this sensitive moment and responding to the chaos outside. "I can't keep doing this," she said as she turned to face him again. "I'm scared, Jake, scared of everything." He reached for her hand, the warmth of her skin grounding him. "Then let's find a way through it, together. But we can't ignore the noise. Sometimes we have to step out into the mess to find clarity." Their eyes locked, and in that moment, Jake could see the flicker of resilience fighting within her. But would it be enough to push them both forward? As they turned toward the noise, something else lingered in the air. The echo of old wounds and the promise of new beginnings hung heavy in the balance. "What if—" Mia hesitated, the tension palpable. "What if there's more to uncover about Mom than we thought?" Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What secrets awaited in the shadows of their shared past? Mia's voice hung in the air like a fragile note waiting for resolution.
Jake's heart raced as he tried to piece together what she meant. More about Mom? Secrets. Every nerve in him flared with anxiety and hope. Maybe we should talk about this later, Jake suggested, glancing out the window. He could still hear the distant laughter mixed with the chaos. It felt so normal, so far removed from the weight of their past. No, Jake, if there's more to discover, we have to face it now. We can't keep running from it, not anymore. Her determination surged through the room, and I admired the strength she had built in his absence. Okay, he swallowed hard, feeling the familiar tension creep up his spine.
What do you want to know? What if I told you I found something that didn't make sense until after I pieced everything together? About her, about what really happened. Each word tumbled out of her mouth now, fueled by a mix of frustration and desperation. Her gaze locked on a family photo sitting on the shelf, the picture of 3 happy faces laughing under the sun. The memories crashed over him, the joy overshadowed by the sadness that followed. What did you find? Jake asked, the urgency in his voice growing. You think you know Mom because of what she showed us, right? But there's so much more beneath the surface. Her voice shook slightly. I've been digging through old things, journals, letters, things I thought were meaningless before, but it all connects to the way she left us. A chill crept through Jake. A part of him felt drawn closer, while another wanted to shield himself from what they might uncover. Mia, are you sure you want to go down that road? What if it changes everything? It already has, she fired back, her eyes blazing. It was as if the fire they had both bottled up was now spilling out, mingling with the cool air of the room. How could I not want to understand? How can we trust each other when there are these secrets buried in our family? His throat tightened. I just thought maybe we could rebuild first, start with what's good. Jake, we can't just polish the surface. If there's pain lingering, it will only grow. She took a deep breath, grounding herself. You came back, and we're trying to mend what's broken, but we need to know why it broke. Jake felt the ground wobble beneath him. The thought of digging deeper in their painful history made his stomach clench, but Mia's resolve was like a beacon, drawing him in. All right, he finally said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. If we're going to do this, we do it together. She nodded, a mix of relief and apprehension washing over her. This could change everything, Jake. I know, he replied, feeling the weight of that truth settle in his bones. They both understood that some truths could shatter even the strongest bonds. With determination in her eyes, Mia turned to the small desk against the wall. I have some of the things I found right here. At least it will give us a place to start. As she sifted through the papers, a sense of urgency filled the air. Every crinkled note, every scribbled word carried the potential to shake the foundation they were desperately trying to rebuild. Here it is, she said, extracting a faded letter. This is the first step. Jake felt his heart thud louder as he reached for it, the weight of the moment crashing over him like waves against rocks. What would they uncover? But before they could dive in further, another loud crash echoed outside, followed by cries of surprise from the kids. They exchanged worried looks. Maybe we should check on them? He suggested, feeling the burden shift between them again. Mia hesitated. Do you think whatever is out there is worse than what's in here? He didn't have an answer, but one thing was clear. Diving into their family's past would be tough, but avoiding the truths waiting to come to light felt even scarier. Let's just see what happened, he said, moving toward the door. But as the door creaked open, something tugged at him, a faint whisper of doubt about the path they were about to take. What if confronting the past puts them in danger? Mia questioned, standing behind him, her expression a mix of concern and determination. Jake turned, searching her eyes. They stood at a crossroads. Healing or hiding, each choice carried weighty consequences. Which path would they take? And then the sound of laughter and shouting filled the air again, a reminder of the innocence still left in their lives, if only they could find a way to bridge the gaps between them. But as they stepped outside, he couldn't shake the feeling that they hadn't just opened the door to explore the past, but to unleash something far more powerful and unpredictable. What awaited them outside? Would the kids be all right? And would facing their family's secrets strengthen or ruin their fragile reconnection? Jake and Mia stepped outside, bracing themselves against the chaos.
Laughter erupted from the backyard, where the kids had transformed a simple game of tag into an impromptu wrestling match, completely oblivious to the storm brewing just moments ago between their parents. "Mia, look," Jake pointed, the tension in his voice fading slightly. They watched as their son Leo playfully tackled his younger sister Lily, who squealed in delight. The innocence on their faces was almost surreal, wrapping around his heart like a warm hug. But beneath that warmth, Jake felt a knot tightening in his stomach. The energy of the moment felt fleeting, teetering on the edge of something fragile. "We can't go back in," he thought, battling the urge to shield the kids from the heavier conversation looming ahead. "They're happy," Mia said, her voice trailing off as she observed the scene. A flicker of hope danced in her eyes, but Jake could see the weight of their earlier discussion lingering just below the surface. "Let's just join them." He stated it more as a mantra than an invitation, summoning courage from the lightness of the kids' laughter. They both stepped further into the yard, captivated by their children's laughter as it filled the air like music. As Jake kneeled down to engage with the kids, he felt a rush of joy, momentarily pushing the thoughts of their family secrets aside. He chased Leo in circles, his heart swelling with every giggle exchanged, while Mia took a seat on the grass with Lily, brushing her hair out of her eyes before embarking on a storytelling session. Yet, as the sunlight danced between the leaves, the shadows of what lay ahead threatened to creep back in.
Jake exchanged a glance with Mia, and the slightest flicker of understanding passed between them. This moment of happiness wouldn't last forever. He had no illusion that they could ignore the past. "Hey, do you want a drink?" Jake suggested, pulling himself up and moving toward the patio, half hoping that momentary distraction could ease the mounting tension in their hearts. "Sure, I'll help." Mia stood as if in relief, grateful for the break and the chance to catch her breath. Together they walked to the cooler stocked with drinks. The clinking of ice against the plastic jar whispered promises of laughter. "Do you think the kids heard us?" Mia asked quietly. Her tone was cautious, shaped by their earlier confrontation. "I really hope not," Jake replied, shaking his head as he poured them both a drink. "They're too young to understand." "Or too smart to ignore," Mia interjected delicately, her eyes flickering to the backyard, the worry crystallizing at her expression. "They might sense that something's off between us." Jake raised his glass, feeling the cool touch of the liquid against his palms. "We'll figure it out together, okay? One step at a time." Mia nodded hesitantly. "But what if the first step reveals something we aren't ready for? What if it shatters what little happiness we've managed to reclaim?" His heart raced at the thought, and he knew she was right. Each realization could tear at the threads they were trying to weave back together. Before they could dive deeper into the conversation, a loud crash echoed once more, followed by an uproar of laughter. As they turned, they saw Leo tumble back into the grass with Lily on top of him, both of them bubbling with laughter, their joy melting the weight of the world momentarily away. "He's going to be just fine," Jake said softly, his voice full of warmth as he took in the sight. He felt warmth flooding his chest again yet again, overpowering the swirling doubts inside him. But with that warmth came a nagging voice. What about the truth of their past? This fragile joy, what would it look like once the clouds rolled in? "Jake," Mia's voice brought him back, "you think we're truly ready to face everything? To dig it all up, knowing that some things may never heal?" He paused, searching her face. "We will figure it out, together. But what if—" Just as he finished his thought, Leo ran up to them, breathless and wide-eyed. "Mom, Dad, you have to come see this." "Mia," Jake steadied himself, feeling the unseen path shift once more beneath their feet, and he knew whatever awaited them with the kids would somehow intertwine with the family secrets they were about to uncover. "What is it, Leo?" Mia asked, her voice taking on that familiar tone of excitement. As they followed him across the yard, Jake felt a tension tightening in his chest again. He had no idea what could be waiting, but everything told him that perhaps it was the start of unraveling those long-buried truths. The laughter still echoed in the background, but was the joy all just a facade? And what revelation could come from interrupting the children's play? With curiosity dancing in the air, they pushed forward. What awaited them just beyond the laughter? Would it be a joy worth cherishing, or an unveiling that shook their fragile world anew? Jake followed Leo and Mia, his heart pounding, uncertainty twisting in knots within him. Every step felt heavy, like he was trudging through unseen muck. The joyous laughter faded, replaced by a throbbing unease. He watched as Leo darted through the grass, pointing excitedly at something hidden behind the old oak tree. Mia's expression mirrored her son's enthusiasm, yet Jake could see a thread of worry weaving through it. "What's going on?" he asked, trying to keep the tremor out of his voice. He wanted to feel light. He wanted to surrender to the moment, but the internal storm wasn't quieting. "Just wait, you'll see," Leo beamed, practically bouncing on the balls of his feet. He squeezed through the bushes, pulling them apart with a flourish. "Look!" Mia crouched down beside him, her curiosity piqued. Jake moved closer, feeling the wall he had built around himself begin to crack. What was it that could get Leo so excited? His son looked back, eyes sparkling with an innocent wonder that made Jake's heart ache. As they approached, Jake finally caught sight of what lay in the small clearing Leo had unveiled. There, half buried beneath a tangle of dried leaves, was an old metal box, resting and forgotten. Mia's eyes widened as she turned to Jake, her expression shifting from curiosity to cautious concern. "What do you think is inside?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Jake replied, sensing the weight of the moment pressing down on them. A forgotten piece of history lay ahead, and he couldn't shake the feeling that it might mirror their own hidden truths. "It looks like a treasure chest," Leo shouted, clearly undeterred by the rust and grime. "Let's open it." Jake felt momentarily lost. The word treasure seemed too innocent, too hopeful, as he looked at the box. What if there was something in there that shattered the facade of their happiness? But beneath that worry was a deeper urge to know, to face whatever lay ahead. This was the moment they had talked about, the uncovering. I could almost hear the echo of Mia's words. What if the first step reveals something? "Okay," Jake said finally, resigned yet hesitant. Mia knelt beside Leo, brushing aside the leaves as they worked together to free the box. I could hear the sound of their excited chatter, the warmth of their bond wrapping around him. The laughter from the backyard faded, snatched away by the gravity of the moment. He worried it would never fully return. "There, we got it," Leo exclaimed, pulling it free from the earth. He handed it to Jake triumphantly, eyes gleaming with excitement. "You open it, Dad."
With shaky hands, Jake brushed off the dirt and rust, revealing the faded pattern etched into the metal. The latch was stuck, reluctant to yield. Mia placed her hand on his shoulder, a silent wave of support washing over him. "Together?" she offered softly, her eyes searching his. "Yeah," he nodded, grateful for her presence. They both applied pressure to the latch until it gave way with a reluctant creak. Jake lifted the top, and for a heartbeat, all the world faded away. Just the three of them, suspended in time. Inside were what looked like old photographs, crumpled papers, and a few forgotten trinkets. He shuffled through the contents, confusion swirling in his mind. The pictures showed laughing faces, moments frozen in time, a family that seemed familiar yet distant. And then he saw it, a yellowing envelope, sealed tight with a worn string. "What's that?" Mia asked, her voice a whisper of apprehension. Jake pulled it out, heart racing. What could it possibly hold? In that moment, all the laughter and warmth faded. The box felt like a Pandora's box filled with future questions, fears bubbling to the surface. "We'll find out," he breathed, acutely aware of the potential weight of the words he was about to say. Just then, Leo tugged at his sleeve, snapping him back to the present. "Can we read it together, Dad?" Jake looked at his son, then at Mia, and knew that whatever lay inside might not only redefine their past, but reshape their very future. Together, they could face this truth. Would it bring them closer or further apart? Taking a deep breath, he nodded, as anticipation curled in the air like smoke. Whatever unraveling lay ahead, they were poised at the threshold, ready to confront whatever waited inside the envelope. And as he tore it open, reality and hope collided. What would it say? Would it bring them peace, or shatter their fragile world even further? Jake took a deep breath, the tension thick in the air as he delicately pulled the envelope free from the box. The paper felt worn and fragile beneath his fingers, a relic from a past he was only just beginning to understand. He hesitated, looking at Mia and Leo, who were both watching him with wide eyes, waiting for him to take that daring step. "All right," he said, summoning his courage. "Let's see what we've got." He unfolded the letter, the paper crackling softly as it opened. Ignoring the swirling doubts in his mind, he cleared his throat and began to read, each word taking on a weight of its own. "Dear, my dearest children," he read, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "If you are reading this,
It means I am no longer with you." Mia's breath caught audibly, and Jake could feel her unease radiating through the air. He continued, voice trembling slightly. "I am writing this in hopes of explaining," he paused to swallow hard, "why I left. I want you both to know that it wasn't your fault." The words began to pour out, each line more revealing than the last.
Jake could feel the weight of the moment twisting and turning in his stomach as their mother's story unfolded, her struggles, her pain, the darkness that shadowed her every step. She spoke of a burden too great to carry alone, of promises made and broken, and ultimately of love that hadn't diminished despite her absence. "This is hard," Mia whispered, her voice barely a tremor against the weight of their family's secrets. Jake nodded, feeling the sting of Kier's gathering in his own eyes. "We've been left with so many questions," he continued, his heart pounding. "But she loved us. She really did." As he read deeper into the letter, he could see it, a glimpse of the mother they had lost, the woman behind the choices that had fractured their lives. "If you can forgive me, please find happiness," it concluded, "and always remember that love transcends distance." The silence that followed felt like a heavy blanket wrapped around them, trembling with unspoken emotions. Jake dropped the letter into his lap, and he felt the cool breeze against his skin, an unexpected reminder of the world outside. He glanced at Mia, whose eyes sparkled with unshed tears, and at Leo, who, though just a child, sensed the gravity of the moment. "What do we do now?" Leo asked, breaking the stillness as he glanced between his parents, searching for answers. Jake could see both concern and curiosity in his son's eyes, the innocence that stood against the complexity of their situation. "We talk," Mia said, her voice steady yet filled with yearning. "This letter, it's a part of our story now. We can't ignore it, but it's also a chance to heal." Jake felt a wave of gratitude toward Mia as she grounded them all in purpose. "You're right. We need to face this together," he added, positioning himself between them as if to shield them from whatever might come next. "We can share memories, talk openly, support one another. It's not going to be easy, but this is our chance to mend the broken ties." Mia nodded, her expression shifting from sorrow to determination. "We can create new memories, build off this understanding. It's more than just us trying to put the pieces back together. It's about creating something stronger." In that moment, something shifted within Jake. The realization that they could transform their grief into action ignited a fire in his chest. They could rewrite their story, a family united, overcoming the past instead of being shackled by it. "We should make a pact," he declared, his words infused with newfound resolve. "To always talk openly, to seek help when we need it, and most importantly, to be there for one another." As he looked into the eyes of his family, a smile broke across Leo's face, pure and untainted. "Can we all be superheroes for each other?" he asked, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Absolutely," Mia beamed, her spirit lifting in response. Jake could hardly hold back the swell of emotions that threatened to overflow. This was real healing, and amidst the weight of their shared burden, laughter began to weave itself back into their lives. They might not have all the right answers, nor could they change the past, yet they were stepping forward together, hand in hand. "All right, superheroes," Jake chuckled, lightness brightening the air again. "Let's take on this adventure as a family. We have healing to do, and together we can be unstoppable." As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting brilliant colors throughout the yard, they began to dig deeper into their mother's past, even as they built a brighter future. They found joy in the journey and healing in embracing the difficult conversations they'd avoided for so long. And with that, Jake realized that the darkness would always hover just beyond the horizon, but as long as they stood together, surrounded by love and support, they could weather any storm. "Don't forget," Jake called out to the audience surrounding them, "there's always room for new beginnings, and this transformation, it's not just ours, it's yours too. Together, we can overcome." It was a moment of clarity. Now here is the moment to take part in this journey. You need to subscribe now to not miss out on exclusive stories just like this one.
Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share this and be part of our growing family.